Driving is one of the most mentally complex things we regularly do. It takes focus, split-second decision-making, and memory. As we age, those skills tend to decline. For people with dementia, including Alzheimer's, driving becomes much more dangerous with time. Researchers project nearly 1 million Canadians will be living with dementia by 2030. The hard part is knowing when someone should stop driving and how to tell them.
It results in arguments between families, arguments between patients and their physicians. No one wants to speak about it.
Dr. Gary Nagley is the chief of staff at Baycrest, a centre for geriatric care in Toronto. He often sees patients with severe dementia. If they're still driving, he suspends their license on the spot.
I've been fired more than once by patients. They get very angry because they don't really understand what's happening. And that's because we've all avoided talking about it until it's gotten too late.
Too late to make them part of the decision-making process. For most people, driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's often intertwined with our sense of independence, freedom, and competence.
Many people view this as my life is going to stop as I know it the minute that my license gets suspended. And we have to give them the confidence that that's not the case.
Family members of people
To do that, he joined forces with Dr. Mark Rappaport.
We wanted to help allow people to plan in advance.
Dr. Rappaport is the acting head of geriatric psychiatry at Toronto Sunnybrook Hospital. With the help of a team, he and Dr. Nagley recently launched drivinganddementia.ca.
The website is set up with 3 portals.
One speaks directly to people with dementia. Another is for family and friends. There's also a portal for healthcare providers. Each offers evidence-based strategies for when, why, and how to help, including videos.
You have to give me your keys.
So far, most visitors to the website have been family members looking for advice on starting the conversation about driving and warning signs that it may be time to stop.
Look for red flags. Look for difficulty making turns, difficulty changing lanes, difficulty maintaining speed.
I learned to drive this old Ford at age 12, and I loved it.
Remember, we used to leave on a Friday.
As a young man, Ron Posno also learned to fly. An incident cost him his vision in one eye 50 years ago, but he says his brain was always wired for highly technical tasks. Then, in his mid-70s, things started changing.
Something was affecting how I was processing information, and particularly how I could remember how to do this or that or whatever.
He was diagnosed with dementia in 2016.
We couldn't live with ourselves if kids got hurt.
Now 83, he recently gave up his license after watching a video on the dementia and driving site and a scary incident outside his building.
I turned my head back to look at where I was supposed to go, and 2 little kids, about 10, 12 years old, rushed by the front of the car on their bicycles. They were just suddenly there. Well, that terrified me, because if I had started, I would have run into it, no question.
But not everyone with dementia willingly hands over their keys, even after a doctor tells them to. Instead, some patients head to an assessment center.
Our goal, and we tell them right from the get-go, that we're on their side. We want them to do as well as they can.
Nell Marie Hyde is an occupational therapist. For about $500, patients can privately retest their driving skills.
What did you see inside the white box? They would say it was a car, so they would touch car.
Cognitive tests check attention, memory, and speed of decision-making. And there's a road test.
At the first street up ahead, we're going to make another right turn.
Ultimately, coming up with a new transportation plan for getting around is key.
There's life after driving, and that we can help support the transition such that it's not as awful as they perceive it to be.
Since Posno stopped driving, friends and neighbors have stepped up, along with his wife, Sandy.
It does change your life, but we can do it, and there's all kinds of resources.
While he misses sitting behind the wheel, Posno says he has no regrets.
I couldn't stand the idea of me hurting somebody with my driving.
So what do you do if someone you love has dementia and you think they should stop driving? Dr. Roger Wong is a clinical professor of geriatric medicine at UBC. He's in Vancouver. So Dr. Wong, it's such a touchy subject. Help us out. When should someone stop driving?
It is a very challenging conversation because we know that driving is not just about a person's ability to operate a motor vehicle, but it involves more things. So a conversation has to come not only from the brain, but also from the heart. We need to remember that there are a variety of different reasons why people may be affected in their ability to drive. Some of them are physical reasons. For example, people can have significant joint problems. They cannot move very easily, cannot walk very easily. Reaction times are slower. Their vision, their hearing may be impaired as a result of aging-related changes or health conditions that affect their health. And then in the situation of dementia, the mind's ability to really make really important decisions, complex decisions in a split second, that could be impaired.
Okay, so let's break some of this down. You touched on the idea that this is about a loss of dignity. It's a loss of independence in some ways. These conversations get very tense very quickly. How do you start this conversation so it just doesn't get so angry and tough?
Absolutely. We have to recognize that there's a strong emotional component attached to it from both the recipients, the adults of the message, but also the people, the loved ones who care so much about their well-being and their safety. So the secret sauce is the conversation must come from the heart. Basically understanding that it involves some kind of an interest-based negotiation. Really try to direct the focus on saying, what are the alternatives? What are things that can continue from a day-to-day functioning point of view without driving? And work with these older adults to come up with solutions together so that, these conversations do not become very paternalistic.
Okay, paternalistic, that's important. But can you offer a sentence, a phrase you would use, something useful that you could try in this conversation?
Absolutely. Oftentimes, in my experience, working with older adults in these kind of conversation, a beginning sentence is something like, I recognize that you have been driving for many, many years throughout your life. There are certain changes that we have observed lately, and let's have this conversation to figure out what other ways can you get around, but really protecting your own safety and the well-being of others using the road. So that particular sentence starts to kind of perk up the attention of the person. And also it comes from a place of the heart that you care enough to have this conversation and engaging the person to be part of the conversation.
Dr. Wong, thank you.
Thank you very much.